Coming up this week on Sporting Journal Radio.
Here, an electrical fire had started back in our back end of our shop.
There are some ice roads that are allowing out, for instance, half-ton trucks not pulling anything.
Once we found the fish, it was a matter of just being patient.
I fish, I hunt, and always will. Broadcasting from the Eau Claire Outdoor Studios. Presented by OnX. Know where you stand with OnX. We're not just a radio show anymore. This is Sporting Journal Radio.
That's right. Welcome to the show. My name is Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in wherever you are, or downloading this wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Thank you very much. Comment below, and you could win some free stuff from the Sporting Journal Radio store. That's Dan Amundson over there. Dan, what's up?
Hey, did I tell you? I think I figured out why our last name is Amundson, not Amundson, like everyone thinks it is.
I don't remember.
So I thought this was. I was falling asleep one night this week, and
during the show.
During the show, yeah.
Okay.
The show's so boring. Can't stand it. But I was thinking, I don't know why, it just popped into my head. But so, we'll watch Canadian fishing shows. We have Canadian friends. We always kind of make fun of them for, when they fire up their Yamaha motor.
And Shimano's.
And they grab their Shimano reel.
Rapalas. So
everyone thinks their last name's Amundson. It's Amundson because our family came from Canada. So they talked like a Canadian. Instead of Amundson, it was Amundson. Shimano. Amundson.
Shimanonson or Shimanonson?
Yeah, your camera died, so let me fix that. But food for thought, that's why we're Amundson. So the Amundsons are listening, that's why. You're welcome.
It's been interesting. It's been a mystery. Just figured out. That's David over there, David Eckhardt.
Hello.
What's up, bud?
How's it going?
What you doing?
Getting excited to go finally ice fishing.
Yeah, right.
Got enough ice, enough cold weather to build some decent ice.
Gosh, it's about time. I have not yet. I haven't even charged my live scope. And part of that is because I lost my charger. I mean, that's probably the biggest reason, to be fair. But a new one is coming this week from Amazon. So I need to get a new battery. I want to get what battery do you have?
Your camera? Yeah, you do.
I have the 48 amped outdoor battery.
Oh, the big one.
Yeah, the big one.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get into, I want to ask you why you like that battery. And if I should get a bigger one for my setup. More with David and that. We've also got Tanner Cherney. He's with Team Lodge and also Devil's Lake. So we're going to talk about conditions of a Devil's Lake. We'll talk about Team Lodge. They're out in Watertown. They actually had their manufacturing facility burned down, had a fire. So we'll talk about what happened, what they're doing now, where they're at, a new facility and all that good stuff, and just what Team Lodge is all about. Their fish houses, wheelhouses, trailers, and stuff like that. So Tanner's coming up a little bit. Also, Joe Henry will join us, give us an update from Lake of the Woods as well. But first, Dan, who are the sponsors this week?
Yes, this show is made possible by lakeofthewoodsmn.com. Lake of the Woods Tourism. Plan a trip to Lake of the Woods this winter at lakeofthewoodsmn.com. The Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic is March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park. Learn more at mndeerclassic.com. Haybell Heights Campground and Resort. Fish out of a snow bear on Devil's Lake this winter. Learn more at haybellheights.com. And Prairie Sportsman, the new season starts this Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, yeah. Pretty cool stuff coming up. And we're pretty excited about cool veterans cast and blast event this week on Prairie Sportsman and some other fun stuff coming up. We had an elk hunt coming up this season. A lot of cool stuff. Check your TV guide for the local air times, or check it out on YouTube. Follow Prairie Sportsman on Instagram, Facebook to get all the latest updates. Or follow Brett or I on social media. I'm sure we'll be sharing it like crazy.
Yeah, that'll be a video to watch. It'll be out on YouTube then on Sunday as well. You'll be able to watch it on the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. And Dan, we filmed a bunch of vets fishing, walleye fishing, and also pheasant hunting. You went with them fishing, and I went with them pheasant hunting. And some of the stories, like I interviewed a couple of these guys, David, and they're pretty much all of them said at one point or another that their helicopter got shot down.
Jeez.
Like they're like, yeah, we got shot down. I think I got shot down twice. Like, oh my gosh. But Dan, the story that you heard while you were fishing takes the cake. Like, this is unreal.
Yeah. We were just fishing all day, whatever. And halfway through the day, I'm like, I'll interview you here. And just so casually, he's like, yeah, I was a prisoner of war for 4 years. So like, picture the time you walk through high school for the first time and then the time you graduated. I was a POW in Vietnam.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And he says it so casually. Like, it was just part of my life. It happened, whatever, Like I'm sitting there trying to just hold the camera and like not have my jaw on the bottom of the boat while we're walleye fishing, and it's just amazing to listen to these stories. And then they're just dudes. I mean, they're just guys being dudes hunting and fishing with us, and they've got some amazing experiences, amazing stories, and we owe them all a lot. And these casts and blasts are just a little way we can say thank you. Or Lance Peterson does a great job of putting these events on, saying thank you, and it's our pleasure to get to go share these stories with the rest of the world. So tune in. I talked to Gary for 20 plus minutes on camera there of all the things he went through and why he loves these events. So pretty neat stuff coming up on this week's show of Prairie Sportsman.
January 21st, watch that on Pioneer PBS or a PBS station near you, or on the Prairie Sportsman YouTube channel. Just one of my favorite shows that we've ever filmed for Prairie Sportsman. While you're on YouTube, check out the Fish Hunt Forever channel as well, too. We put up, speaking of veterans and wild stories, Todd Van Langen was Special Forces. He was part of the hostage rescue. It's kind of a big deal. They had a lot of notoriety, this group that he was with, this hostage rescue group. And some of the stories that he told while I was recording and while I wasn't recording, just unreal. But I sat down to do a podcast with him, and one of the stories he talked about was shooting. They were in Iraq, and there were some pigeons around a dump, or I can't remember exact story.
Listen to the podcast, he'll tell you.
But he shoots some birds that were banded. And in Iraq, like, it's just one of the craziest band stories I've ever heard of. So check it out. North American Waterfowl Podcast. You can download that where you get podcasts, or watch that on our YouTube channel here, Sporting Journal Radio. And I thought what would be kind of neat for us to talk about here on the show, guys, is, we all spend a lot of time watching things on YouTube. If there's something that catches our eye, we thought we'd share it with you and say this might be something interesting for you to watch on YouTube. And I came across a video the other day, and it's about duck hunting. It's about the Armistice Day Blizzard, the day the duck hunters died, and it's from the Outdoorsman Historian channel, I think is what it's called. And I thought it'd be pretty interesting to talk about. And Dan and I were talking about it. He's like, well, it's not really duck hunting season for us around here, but it's such a topic for Minnesota outdoors people, that it's such a historical event that took place here in our backyard. And there were a couple of things I didn't really know about it. So a little background, if you don't know, 1940, Armistice Day Blizzard, huge storm. A lot of duck hunters died duck hunting because the storm came out of nowhere. You didn't have the weather app on your cell phone. You didn't really know what was going on. But one story I never really knew about is there was a pilot from Winona named Max Conrad. He had a Piper Cub. And when that storm happened, he was actually at a Liberace concert that night when the storm happened, which is not really pertinent to the story, but I thought that was kind of wild. The next morning, he flew his plane out over the river where these hunters were stranded. Like, the storm came up, a lot of guys turned their skiffs over and tried to shelter from the blizzard underneath their duck boats. Some survived it, some didn't. He would come over these areas and he would fly real low and then cut his motor in his plane. And then he would listen or yell. If he saw hunters, he would yell down to them, hey, help is on the way. There was a tugboat that he was working in conjunction with. He'd spot him, and then the tugboat would come try to rescue him. Well, if the tugboat couldn't get there for a while, he'd drop these supply kits down to these guys. And this is one of my favorite parts of the story, because guess what were in the supply kits that he was dropping to these duck hunters that were stranded in a blizzard?
Matches. Some crackers.
Sandwiches. Now, the next two you're going to struggle with.
That's David.
Yeah, I don't.
No, think.
Think duck hunters. Think about what duck hunters would probably enjoy today, let alone 80 years ago.
That wouldn't freeze.
I was going to say coffee, but.
No. But something else that warms you up when you drink it.
Oh, some alcohol.
Whiskey and cigarettes. So they drop sandwiches, dry matches, whiskey, and cigarettes down to these duck hunters. And I definitely feel like duck hunters today would still appreciate that.
Yeah, can we order?
They probably needed to calm their nerves after surviving that ordeal.
My gosh. That pilot went on to set some world records for flying in the 1950s. There's an airport in Winona named after him.
Most whiskey delivered by pilot.
The tugboat was the Joseph Throckmorton. It's still in action today, but it's called the Elizabeth Leah, and it's on the historic list in Indiana and may someday become a museum. The other part of that story, real quick, I want to mention is Bud Grant is talked about, and some of you may know the Bud Grant story, but he was hunting near Webster, Wisconsin that day with a couple of friends, and the weather started getting rough, so they're like, we need to take the boat back into this little cabin that they had rented, but there was no heat and no water. I don't think they had any food in this little cabin. So they get into the cabin, they realize we're not going to survive in this cabin overnight. We need to I think they had to go back to Superior, and they get on this gravel road near Webster, and they come across two vehicles that are stuck on the road. They can't go any further. So the people that were in those vehicles, they all climb into one vehicle for warmth, and then every so often start the vehicle. They're like sitting on each other's laps and just trying to survive the night. Just wild, crazy stuff, man. And then the next day, Bud still has all his hunting gear on. So he's got his waders on, everything else. He decides he's going to hoof it for help. He comes to a gas station, a little 2-pump gas station, and the woman there and her daughter take him in and give him some food. And he ends up staying there for 2.5 days. And this is before cell phones, obviously, but they had no phone. They had no way of communicating. So he basically goes to this gas station and gets shelter and food and just still has to wait for somebody to come rescue him. He has no way to tell anybody. So his dad up in Superior is freaking out, thinks his son, so this is 1940, so Bud's probably pretty young, thinks his son is dead in a blizzard somewhere, stranded or dead, and is freaking out. He's a fireman. He commandeers a fire truck and heads south on 35 in western Wisconsin from Superior down towards Webster, comes across this gas station and finds him. I don't know if it was randomly stopped at the gas station or if he was stopping every so often or what, but randomly comes to this gas station and there's his son, and I guess just like broke down. And Bud's like, I'd never seen my dad cry before, and he was sobbing uncontrollably. And I could imagine. Think about that. Your son, you think he's lost in a blizzard somewhere or dead? And just to randomly come across him at a gas station, and I guess he made about $100 a month, and he gave that lady like $40 for taking Bud in for 2.5 days, and that was a big deal. So, man, I could not imagine. Thankfully, we have better gear nowadays. So that's an interesting documentary. If you are, there's a lot of stuff out there. I know Dan was pulling some of it up. There's a lot of stuff about the Armistice Day Blizzard. If you don't know too much about that, you can find it on that YouTube channel.
We can put, somebody reminds me, put links in the comments when we upload this video.
There you go. Have you guys ever been caught in the weather like that? Been worried about anything?
No, nothing that extreme, I guess.
Yeah, not duck hunting anyways.
Been a fool and hunted open water when it's 0 and you freeze your hands, but that's all self-inflicted.
Yeah. Were you with us that day when it was with Tony and we were hunting here, and I think we were guiding actually. It was real late season, right before the end of the duck season.
Cut the landing open?
Well, we've definitely done that a couple of times, but I don't think I think this is a different one. And we had to go across the lake to hunt. And when we came back, we were so loaded down with guys and decoy. I think we did 2 trips going out, one with gear, and then we came back to pick up the clients. And then going back in, we just piled everything in. And literally the lake was building ice while we were driving across it. And in fact, it was getting so windy that the best parts of driving across the lake were where it was building ice because it was calm. We didn't have to deal with the waves, but it was, Tony and I kind of looked at each other halfway across the lake like, this is a bad idea. But we made it. We were fine, obviously, and never did something like that again. But thankfully, I've never been in a bad situation. So be safe out there. Of course, if you're ice fishing, be safe. And if you're in Wisconsin this weekend, it's a free fishing weekend. So if you don't normally fish or you want to take somebody fishing and they don't normally fish, you don't have to buy a license. All other regulations apply. Any open waters any state waters that have an open season are open. Just can't fish the spring trout ponds. So free fishing weekend in Wisconsin. One other thing I wanted to mention real quick about Duluth, and we'll have more about this coming up, but there's going to be Superior Angling is putting on a film night and a cancer benefit. I believe it's February 10th. Maybe we can search for that real quick. Or otherwise, we'll have more information. But I believe it's going to be February 10th at Clyde Ironworks in Duluth. And a friend from high school is going to be a part of that. So we'll have more about that coming up in the future. We got to take a break. but we've got, there it is. Yeah, February 10th, Clyde Ironworks, film and raffle benefit for cancer. So, all right, David Eckhardt, Dan Amundson with us, Joe Henry coming up, Tanner Cherney on the way, and we're going to talk about some ice fishing electronics bundles and setups, what we like, what we would do differently, all that and more coming up when we come back on Sporting Journal Radio.
852 million acres of public land, 147 million private properties, all in the palm of your hand. The #1 hunting GPS app just got better. With hundreds of custom map layers, 3D and topographic maps, you can easily scout on the road or at home before you go. And now you can get important weather details, CWD detection, and even know what crops have been planted where. Get the most trusted hunting GPS app ever made. OnX. Know where you stand with OnX.
We're back. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for watching or listening or tuning in or downloading, whatever you're doing. Thank you very much. I'm Bret Amundson. That's David Eckhardt and Dan Amundson right over there. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention too, Jay Siemens has a new video. So if you're out on YouTube, a week and none of it. How cool would that be? He's fishing for...
cool and cold.
Cold. He's fishing for cod with these, it's like a jigging stick basically, or jiggling stick or whatever they call it, the old...
Let's make it clear. Ice fishing for cod.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a thing.
Right. Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, they have these, like, rods that are about this big with the line wrapped around them, like the old school ice jigging rods. And then the drop down, I think the one guy had, like a Williams wobbler.
Yep.
And then Jay just put on a tongue.
Sure, just another
some
spoon.
sort of
I saw mainly spoons. But
yeah, I can't remember. Literally, as soon as they drop it down, whack, getting bit. I mean, they were catching cod left and right. It was nuts.
They dropped the GoPro down.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Cod tried to eat the GoPro because it's just I don't think they knew what it was. And they're like, oh, what's this? They tried to eat it.
Never see lures hardly. I
Like
bet
a
up
tog,
there.
Sure not.
So,
But the other cool part about that stick they were using was that, like, the end of it, you're able to, so you bring the fish up and then the end of it is made so you just
we can bonk.
Right.
Yeah,
You
bonk life.
bonk the fish and knock it out and be done with it because they're fishing for subsistence up there. You don't order Domino's and none of it and have it show up. Well, maybe you do, but it's going to show up frozen and on a snowmobile.
It won't be 30 minutes or less.
No, you'll get everyone for free.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe you do want to order Domino's.
Or $100 per pizza.
Yeah.
Something like that. But
cool video anyways.
Yeah, check it out on YouTube. Jay Siemens. Nice job, Jay. Very cool. And the one thing I noticed in that video too is he maybe brought that auger, Dan?
Yeah, I think he did. I think so. He had an ion with, I think I counted 3 or 4 extensions.
Yeah, 5 feet of ice.
Like, stupid. Doesn't look fun.
But no electronics. Like, didn't have any electronics. And it just seems wild to fish without electronics nowadays. I feel like and obviously he was limited on what gear he could probably bring on that trip. But, man, just fishing without them these days. And so I got a live scope, and then I can't remember which lithium battery I got, but I definitely think I want to upgrade to a bigger one. Now which one do you have again?
The 48 amped outdoors battery. And
you got that because you got a 10-inch.
Yeah.
Right?
I've got a 106 Ultra. So it sucks a lot of juice compared to the 9s.
And that's why you went with the biggest, baddest battery you could find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have to, I can get two days out of that battery. And yeah, it lasts longer than what I was running. So
do you remember what you had before? I
had 2 Vexilar lithiums, 12 amp hours wired together. So 24 amp. So I basically doubled my capacity. So if you had to buy a new battery tomorrow, would you go out and get the same one, or would you do something different? Yeah, either the 32 or the 48, something big.
You think the 32 would be all right?
I think so, depending on your head unit. A 32 with a 9 would last probably 2 days.
So, and those are NMC batteries?
The 48s are, yeah.
Yeah. Do we know what the difference?
Not really sure. It's just a different lithium.
Instead of Life PO4, it's NMC.
Yeah. I don't know what the difference is, but more capacity, I think.
And those are the higher output?
Yeah. So they're a higher volt. I think they're like a 14.8 volt is what they call them versus a 12 volt or 12.8. which your electronics will run anywhere from 12 to 18 volts usually. So that 14.8 charged up is like 16.2 or 16.5 volts to start, and drops down to 12. Whereas a 12 volt will drop down to 8 or 9 volts, but your electronics will shut off at 10.
Yeah.
So you're not getting the full range of that battery.
Okay. But you got to pay a little bit more for those. I noticed that. When it's like, I'm going to get one of these, and I looked at the price tag. I'm like, oh, well, you're getting quality.
Right.
You got to pay for quality sometimes.
It's all an investment.
Yeah. But how many years have you had that battery now?
2, I think.
2 years. Still running great.
Yep.
Nice. How long are you supposed to be able? How long are those supposed to last?
I don't even know. I suppose it depends on how much you use it.
Sure.
It's like an electric car.
Yeah. How often you charge it and turn it down and stuff like that.
Gotcha. And then what shuttle are you running with that?
I have a Summit XL, the older XL shuttle.
You had to get the XL because of the 10-inch?
Yeah. So they had the standard and the XL at that time. And when I first bought it, I had a 7-inch screen, but I wanted to get a 12. So I got the shuttle big enough to get a 12, and then ended up just going with a 10 because I didn't.
Your wife said
it was like a third of the price of a 12.
Jeez. Wow.
So.
And how do you like that shuttle?
I like it.
Is it heavy? That battery is pretty heavy, isn't it, actually?
It's fairly heavy, yeah. And I mean, just a 10-inch head unit and the whole setup, everything's got a lot of weight to it.
So you're saying 1 inch makes a difference?
It does.
I just got to add something to this conversation.
Well, what shuttle did you get, Dan?
Well, see, I bought the fin gear shuttle from local guy Drake Hurd up in Alexandria. I figured that'd be cool to buy local. I always like doing that when possible, and it seems like a great product. Now I can't say because I haven't been ice fishing since I bought it, so it's looked really good sitting in the living room, but have yet to use it. So we'll find out. But I like that it's metal. I feel like I can beat up on it a little bit more, and not have too many issues with it. But time will tell, I guess. But anyways, either way, I spent my money local. I like that.
Well, I'm running the Garmin, and I don't know if I start upgrading screens and batteries. I might have to upgrade. The shuttle might work for the bigger one, but the bag, like you have a Garmin bag, don't you?
Yeah, I had to get the XL bag because
the bigger screen.
Yeah, it's a monster of a unit, which doesn't work so great for running and gunning.
Hopping.
Yeah, it's a lot to carry around.
Yeah.
So if I do that, I usually switch over to my Helix.
Well, I ran Danny Thompson's. I think he's an 8610, maybe the 10-inch, for a while this summer, and I think that might have been a Summit shuttle that it was on.
I think it was ArcLab actually.
Was it Arc? It might have been ArcLab.
I think it was ArcLab,
and it was a little bit heavier, but I didn't have any problems dragging that thing around.
I mean, if you're in a hard house or a boat or somewhere you're set up in one spot, it's fine. But if you're out doing a lot of walking, punching holes and stuff, it's a lot to carry.
Well, and it won't matter what shuttle you have; it's going to be heavy and carry.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's where I like the metal, because again, if it's in a sled or a toboggan, as I call it in Canada, when you're ripping around behind a sled,
snow machine,
snowmobile, whatever. You're not going to feel like you're breaking plastic. Some of those, I like some of the ArcLabs, I think you can actually, or even I think Fingear has it too. I didn't get the one with the USB plug-in, so you can charge a phone, stuff like that, which is kind of nice. Places to attach like a glow cup, glow ring. Summit makes a attachment that you can put a pole holder, so you can put your pole right in there and carry it around. So each have their own little nifty, handy features. And like I said, it doesn't matter what you're going to do. Plastic, it's going to be a little bit lighter, but at the end of the day, the head unit and the black box are all kind of heavy and bulky, so you're going to be lugging some weight around no matter what you do.
I do like mine is a little bit lighter for that reason.
It is a little bit lighter, for sure, no doubt.
But this year, with it as cold as it's been, Dan, you're onto something there. I remember being up with Jeff Gustafson, and we were wolf hunting, but we were going to go ice fishing for lake trout up there in Lake of the Woods. And he's like, it's 45 below zero. And
Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit. And he was pulling some bait, I think, out to one of his sites in an otter sled, and he went over it behind his snowmobile, and he went over a log, and his otter sled broke in half. Like,
everything gets brittle at that temp.
He's like, yeah, we're not going ice fishing. And I had a camera tripod that rode around the back of the sled, and all the handles broke off the tripod and everything. So, having some durability is obviously an important thing when it comes to fishing when it's been as cold as it is. I think the best part about ice fishing this year that I'm excited about is when we finally go next week, Dan, when we're going out, it's going to be warm.
Yeah, that's like that. When you think you're going ice fishing and you're all bundled up and you step outside and you feel like you're getting a suntan, that might be like the best feeling ever when you're ice fishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like those late season mid-30s days.
But it's in January, so it's awesome.
Yeah, that is true. But yeah, you feel like you could just run around in a t-shirt.
Yeah. You just play games.
You said that's the best. Do you think that's better than, like, say, when a mark shows up on your electronics?
Maybe. I don't know. There's some cool things that happen when you're ice fishing, no doubt, but marks happen every day. You don't get it every day where you can just feel warm.
T-shirt. I mean, 25 degrees is going to be t-shirt weather based on what we've had. Yeah, getting sunburn is the best feeling during ice fishing when you can get a sunburn while you're ice fishing.
Maybe, because it makes me realize that open water's right around the corner. And that might be the best feeling ever. Ice fishing is when you don't go ice fishing and you open water fish. I don't know. There's like a lot of things that I love about ice fishing, but I also like to trash it.
Dan hates
like
ice fishing.
when the pizza timer goes off in the wheelhouse, that's hard to beat.
Or when your buddy misses a fish.
Yeah, and you can just make fun of them.
Make fun of them.
Yeah. Or your beer stays cold. I love that about ice fishing.
So that's a thing, a legit question of how do you keep your beer cold now when you can't just set it on the ice anymore?
Well, is that really a thing, though?
I
think it'd be a discretionary thing because it's not really trash.
Put it in the back of your truck, I suppose.
Yeah, you gotta walk out to get it, though.
Well, what do you think the best things? Let's make a contest out of this.
Should we make a bracket? If we can get like 16 feelings while ice fishing, come up with your ideas. Let's make a bracket. Let's decide what the best feeling ever is. It when the fire department doesn't show up?
Oh, because you needed to get rescued.
Yeah, you go fishing and you get home on your own, or your beer doesn't freeze.
I like it.
Smell a two-stroke in the morning. All these, man. Actually, I'm talking myself into liking ice fishing.
We need to go ice fishing now.
Well, I don't think we need to, but we probably should.
Let's do that. I want to give away some prizes here on this show. Let's come up with some sort of bracket. Give us some help. Comment below what you think the best feeling in ice fishing is, and I don't know, we'll have people vote on it and pick a winner.
So if you're listening to this on the radio or the not video podcast, either go watch this on YouTube, comment below, or we'll put up some posts on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, just Sporting Journal Radio. Instagram, sporting.journal.radio. Give us a follow, give us a like, but then we'll put up a post. Comment below, and we'll come down with a bracket with our, what should we say, top 16 best feelings of ice fishing, and we'll come up with a bracket contest. We'll kick it off next week. How about that?
So would you have if you had 16, would that be like a 4-week?
4 rounds. 4 weeks, 4 rounds. So
all right.
We'll kick this to the end, and then we'll go into March Madness and pick basketball teams because we're huge basketball fans here on the show.
Right.
Sports ball.
All right. We'll work on this. Comment below, and you could be winning some cool prizes as we figure this contest out. All right. We got to take a break. Joe Henry and Tanner Cherney all on the way. Stay there.
Don't miss the 2024 Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, presented by Select Heartland Chevy Dealers at Canterbury Park in Shakopee, March 8th, 9th, and 10th. This year's Classic features top hunting celebrities like Pat Nicole Reeve of Driven TV, Melissa Bachman of Winchester Deadly Passion TV, and legendary bow hunter Barry Wenzel. Get your antlers scored, view more than 300 antler entries, and see the latest hunting products, plus a great lineup of lodges and outfitters. Learn more about the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, March 8th, 9th, and 10th at Canterbury Park in Shakopee at mndeerclassic.com.
All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for tuning in on the network. By demand, sportingjournalradio.com, or maybe you're watching this on YouTube. Comment below. Everybody that comments on the show each week has a chance to win some merch from the Sporting Journal Radio store. Maybe we just got these brand new quarter zips, they call them, in the store now. Kind of nice. I like them. Check it out at sportingjournalradio.com. We actually have a new affiliate we're going to be announcing soon, and it's up in northern Minnesota, and that's what we're going to talk about right now is northern Minnesota with Joe Henry from Lake of the Woods Tourism. Joe, how's it going?
It's going good, but now I learned a new word today. Is it cooter zip?
Quarter zip. Quarter zip.
Quarter, not
Quarter
cooter.
zip.
Quarter.
Not quarter zip.
Quarter zip.
Quarter zip.
I'm just trying to figure this out. I mean, I don't know if anybody else got it the wrong way. I know I did.
We're just talking about the tow truck driver from Dukes of Hazzard.
Cooter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy cooter.
Yeah. That's
Crazy.
something he'd probably wear. He'd cut the sleeves off.
I don't even know if I was
sleeveless.
born when Dukes of Hazzard was out.
Oh, okay.
You guys are older than I am.
I know that show, Joe. There's knowledge in these young
To answer your
brains.
question, sorry to get off track there. You kind of threw me off there. I didn't know if I should add that one. I do know quarter zip. Okay, I got that.
good.
Now. I do know that. But no, fishing conditions have been good. We've had a lot of cold weather, and obviously we needed cold weather. A lot of below zero. This morning it was 10 below. We got below zero for a good part of the week yet. We've had below zeros, and that's helping things. Now I will tell you right now that don't assume because we've had below zero temps that everything is just fine and things are caught up to where they would normally be this time of year, because they're not. You know what? You still have to work. We still encourage you to work through an outfitter or a resort, because ice conditions, believe it or not, are still varying greatly. We are not to where we would normally be this time of year. There are some ice roads that are allowing out, for instance, half-ton trucks not pulling anything. There is an ice road that's allowing some wheelhouses to go out, but not being pulled by a half-ton truck, smaller ones. And it's just, every road's different. You got to adhere to the rules. They don't want to restrict people if they don't have to, but they're trying to keep everybody safe, and they know that ice. And the other thing I'll say is stay on the trails. Don't be going roaming around this time especially this year. Don't go roaming around, because that's how you're going to get yourself in some trouble. There's varying ice conditions. There's some cracks. There's some ice heavals like there is every year on big ice, and just follow the instructions. If you do that, you'll be good to go.
Yeah, we had some buddies that were up there about a week ago or so, something like that, and they had, where they were was plenty of ice. I think they actually drove out to the sleeper house they were staying in, but he sent us a video and pointed that way and goes, yeah, that way the ice is not quite as good as this. So we just stayed right on the trail that the resort told us to stay on, and they caught a bunch of fish. So
nice.
I think that's always the key up there. And Joe, earlier in the show, we were talking a little bit about what we have for our electronics bundles, what we use, what we like, things like that. If I were planning a trip to Lake of the Woods, which I guess I am, I'm going to be up there in about a month or so, a couple of weeks. What kind of electronics do you like to have up there, Joe, and how do you use them?
Well, I'll tell you what. So here's the deal. Right off the bat, for people that maybe don't go up to Lake of the Woods having electronics is really, really nice to have, because number one, you can see if there's fish below you, and that's important to know. The other thing is, most importantly, you can see how fish are reacting to what lures you're giving them, what kind of minnows, how you're hooking your minnows, what kind of presentation, what kind of jigging motion you got. And the bottom line is, you can watch those fish. Now, if you're catching fish, keep on doing what you're doing. If you're not catching fish and you can see that fish are going through, boy, then it's time to switch something up. Maybe you want to go from a bigger lure to a smaller lure. Maybe you want to go from a jig and spoon with rattles to no rattle. Maybe you want to change from, using a piece of minnow head to a piece of minnow tail, as an example. Little subtle tweaks like that can make all the difference in the world. A lot of times a jigging motion might be, jig, and let it sit in the strike zone, which to me is about a half a foot to a foot off the bottom. Jig, and let it sit. If they're not hammering it, you gotta make some moves quick, because that walleye is not going to hang around very long for a second or third or fourth look. So now if they're not hitting it, now you shake it like heck. And then you hold it still in the strike zone, typically right above them if you can see that fish on your electronics. Then, of course, drop it in the mud and lift it off slow. Drop it in the mud and lift off slow, give it a little shake. Sometimes they'll whack it there. The tendency there is that a lot of times they're feeding on stuff, whether it's minnows digging into the bottom, whether it's bloodworms, whether they're picking off some crayfish that are in the bottom, or there's food that they eat that come out of the mud, so that's instinctive. Then, of course, one of the techniques I love is shaking it and then reeling while you're shaking it and getting that to, like a minnow trying to escape. Get that fish to chase it, and when they're chasing that bait, do not stop and let them catch up. You keep that thing going. And a lot of times you can say they're 5 feet off, 6 feet off, 7 feet off, and all of a sudden, pow, they'll whack it. In fact, when they whack it, oftentimes they're going to push it up because they're swimming up, and you got to get reel and set the hook at the same time and take out that slack. But it's a blast. I mean, but that it's almost like an adult video game using a Vexilar or whatever your brand name is, your Garmin's, your Markham's, your Humminbirds, whatever your choice is. I will say this: if you don't have ice fishing electronics, most of the resorts and certainly many of the bait shops up at Lake of the Woods will rent them by the day. And that's kind of a very inexpensive way to get into the game, see what's below you, see how they're reacting. And it's like Brett, we call it a video. It's almost like an adult video game. I mean, when you've used electronics and then you forget your electronics when you go fishing or don't have them available for some reason, boy, it feels really different.
I just go home.
Yeah.
I literally go home. I've done it before, and I just leave. I quit. I don't fish that day. I can't do it. I'll sit there. I'm like, it'll be fine. It'll be old school. And I do it for about 20 minutes, and I just go home. Can't do it.
Isn't it nice, though, knowing at least what's down there? At least okay, there's nothing down there. The other thing that's interesting is on Lake of the Woods, especially when you're fishing out in that basin in that deep mud, a lot of times you'll watch that bottom. And, that line, I mean, there's nothing going on down there, right? If there's nothing living, that line will stay the same on a flasher. All of a sudden, you see that line, and that's the bottom, represents the bottom of the lake. You see that line get a little bit wider. And then it goes down again. Like, there's something on that bottom. There's a fish down there,
Oh, yeah. No, I've done that. I've also driven granted, the lake's only 10 minutes away, but my home lake here, I've driven there and got there and was in a heated house, set up, ready to go, and realized I left my electronics at home. And again, it was a short drive, but I definitely turned around and drove home and got the electronics because there was no way I was going to sit there without it. And the first time I ever used them was at Lake of the Woods. I was on a trip. We didn't really grow up ice fishing, and I was at Lake of the Woods, and I was jigging, and I had a couple other guys in the house, and they all have Vexilars, and they're just smashing fish. And I caught a few just blind jigging, but I'm like, this is. Oh, they caught another one behind me. Okay, this is painful. And then we were staying at Ballard's, and I was like, hey, do you guys rent Vexilars here? Like, yep, you bet. So I got one for the next day, and I was like, oh my, it was night and day, obviously, as everybody knows out there.
It's also more enjoyable. Not only is it more productive, but it's more enjoyable to see what's going on. And you have the Garmin, live scopes and things like that. And boy, that's a whole another game too. I mean, it's a lot of fun watching those fish come in from afar and see where they're at. And the other thing electronics do is they help you catch those fish that are suspended in the water column. A lot of times those are some of your bigger fish, bigger walleyes that'll come through halfway down, and you can reel up to them. And one tip when you see a fish suspended, when you reel up to them, get up to them quick. But I always slow down about 2 feet below them. Slow down your reel and creep up to them. Otherwise, you'll spook them. Get that lure just above them. Their eyes are on top of their head, and they're used to feeding up. So get that lure just a little bit above them. Shake a little bit. And a lot of times they'll come in and whack that bait you're using. The other thing too, I would say is, we oftentimes talk about using that 1-2 punch. And in Minnesota ice fishing, you can use 2 lines while you're ice fishing. One of them you use as a jigging line. It's going to not only attract fish to your area, but it's also going to catch the more active fish. Of course, that second line, we call that a dead stick. That's where you're going to put a live minnow under a bobber and have it about 6 inches to a foot off the bottom as a rule. And you know what? Sometimes you're gonna get more fish on that jigging line. There are days when those fish are in a neutral mode that dead stick will be the hottest stick in your house, and that's a whole other conversation of how to do the dead stick. But you know what? Using your favorite ice jig, certainly on Lake of the Woods with that stained water, gold, your glow reds, your pinks, your chartreuses, oranges, or a combo thereof of those colors with a minnow, or I tell you, even a plain hook, like a number 4 or a number 6 octopus hook with a split shot. Just going plain Jane is sometimes the best scenario. And you know what? If you're doing that and using some electronics, most of the time you're going to catch fish. And the other thing I say too is, Lake of the Woods, really many lakes, you don't know when that bite window is going to be. So that's why you fish all day long. You pay attention. I will say some of the folks that enjoy playing cribbage out in the fish house, they can watch their bobbers and stuff. They won't catch as many fish, and that's okay. It's not all about catching fish to people. But for people that are actually fishing and watching their lines and working them, you know what? Normally throughout the day, you're going to have a few bite windows. You'll have a few schools come through, and normally by the end of the day, that bucket looks pretty darn good.
Joe, we've been talking a little bit earlier in the show, too, about the best feeling when you're ice fishing. Dan put that reel up just a second ago on the screen there. What's the best feeling when you're out there, Joe? Is it watching the bobber going down? Is it the moment you get bit? Like, what's your favorite feeling when you're out there ice fishing?
Well, for me, it's probably that tap, jigging and probably getting that tap, a good solid tap, And to me, what that tap is when a walleye is coming up to your lure, and they open their mouth and they flare their gills at the same time, and they suck water in, and they suck that minnow or whatever it is in. And when you're using a lure, and you get them to freaking tap it like that, that is so awesome. The other one that's kind of fun is I like using a rip and wrap a lot. And a ripping wrap is for people that don't use them a lot. They're like a lipless crankbait, and they have rattles in them, and they vibrate, and they're kind of a noisy lure. But I'll use like a number 4 rip and wrap. And I'll rip that thing, and I'll tell you something. Sometimes they creep up to it, but there are times where you're doing that rip and wrap, and there's nothing on your screen, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, that Vexilar screen will turn. There'll be a big red mark there. That fish is so hot to try. All you have to do is raise your lure to it and go doink doink, and boom, it's gonna pound it. And that is a fun bite. I mean, that's worth the price of admission every day.
Absolutely.
Tap, tap, tap.
Tap, tap, tap. Well, if people want to see those red marks up at Lake of the Woods, Joe, what should they do to get a trip booked?
Yeah, you know what? And we do have openings this time of year, believe it or not. It's just been kind of a weird year. But, hey, check out our website, and that is lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
Lake of the Woods, the walleye capital of the world, is calling out to you. From the northwest angle to the South Shore and Rainy River, this is the Midwest's #1 ice fishing destination. Walleyes, sauger, perch, northern pike, and eelpout. The fishing on Lake of the Woods is like a world of its own. Experience the most amazing fishing through one of the many full-service resorts featuring heated fish houses, ice transportation, meal plans, and sleeper fish house options. For more information, go to lakeofthewoodsmn.com.
All right, this is Sporting Journal Radio. My name is Bret Amundson. Thank you for tuning in on this radio station right here with a new affiliate coming very, very soon. We'll announce that maybe next week here on the show. Also, you can download it at sportingjournalradio.com, or you can watch it on YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, please like it, give us a subscribe, and share maybe if you really like it, and comment below on whatever we're talking about, and you'll be entered to win some stuff from the Sporting Journal Radio store. Now we're going to bring on Tanner Cherney. We've known Tanner for a while through Devil's Lake. And now he's doing stuff with Team Lodge. He's a marketing specialist, and he's joining us on the show. Tanner, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Brett. How about yourself?
Not bad. Not bad. It's been a weird year. Of course, it's been real cold. It's about to finally start to warm up a little bit. It's been interesting because for me, I don't generally start ice fishing until the hunting seasons are over. So I always miss out on some of the best early ice fishing, of course. But usually by the time I can get out there, we're in wheelhouses and we can drive trucks, which is kind of nice. Although this year's a little bit different. Some of those bigger, heavier houses obviously aren't going out there. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what you guys have with Team Lodge. But really, I don't know. I know I heard about this a while back, and then I saw a video come out on Instagram recently talking about the fire that you guys had, and the fact that you're in a bakery now making those houses?
We are, yeah. We were so our manufacturing plant is located in Watertown, South Dakota, and about mid-October, we had a call come into one of our production managers in the middle of the night, and here an electrical fire had started back in our back end of our shop that progressed pretty quickly. So by the time the fire department, everyone was able to get there, there was some pretty bad smoke damage throughout the whole shop. And yeah, we, going right into ice fishing season where wheelhouses are becoming a hot commodity, literally a month out from that, we're like, uh-oh, what do we do now? Because fortunately, we were in the process and are of building a brand new shop in this spot anyways. But so we were able to find a vacant bakery that just closed up here a few years ago in downtown Watertown and make a makeshift manufacturing plant for our wheelhouses and toy haulers for the time being until we can get into the new shop.
When I first saw this video that Dan is playing right now, and I'm not sure who it is that made this video, but he's walking through and he's like, we're in a bakery. And he said, and the best part about our new place in this bakery, I thought for sure he was going to say they were still making fresh bread in there and you got to smell fresh bread every day and eat fresh bread, because that would be amazing. But it was your bouncy house deal that you had going on in there. But it was not, obviously it was nice that a facility was like this, a temporary facility was available for you.
It was, because that was our biggest thing is we had orders coming through down the production line, and it's like, all right, we could be 2-3 months out from continuing operations, where we were very fortunate that we had about a week and a half, 2 weeks of a transition period where everything was kind of shut down, and we were able to pick things right back up where they left off.
So, and then going back to the fire, there was nobody hurt or anything. Everything, just a lot of equipment damage probably.
Just a lot of equipment damage. We had no one was hurt, thankfully. So, I mean, on the bright side of things, it was everything that was damaged could be replaceable. We had 5 or 6 trailers that were actually in production, and a couple that were literally just needed to go through a final QC check before they were out the door to their end user. So that was a little tougher to have those calls and say you're going to have to wait another 10 to 12 weeks before the trailer is done. But everything was able to be replaced. And like I said, you always got to look on the bright side of things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad everybody was okay. And, you just said something that I also noticed in this video. You guys are walking around wheelhouses and talking about ice fishing, and you guys are calling them trailers. Explain that.
We're in our 20th year of business, and we started out as a traditional wheelhouse company where ice fishing is our core market, still is. But, in lieu of things right now and trying to justify maybe a little bit bigger ticket purchase of an item, we're trying to kind of break that mold of we're not just an ice house, we're a toy hauler, we're a trailer. So, there's 4 seasons in the year that you could utilize this, from ice fishing season to maybe you're a Western hunter and you need a base camp for out in the mountains, or you're hauling your kid off to college, it's an enclosed trailer, or you got a family of 4 that you want to go travel to state parks throughout the summer. You've got a camper now too. So just trying to make that multi-use distinguished note there. And we've kind of transitioned from that typical wheelhouse talk to trailers and toy haulers now to just show the multi-use of them.
Well, you're only... Watertown, what's Watertown? Like 45 minutes from here, probably?
Yeah,
something
45
like that?
to an hour.
About that. Next time you come down, we should stop over there and check out. First of all, check out the bakery and see if there's any leftover fresh buns, just in case. I love fresh bread.
Or you can just bring one here, a trailer here, if you want.
There's that too.
Or 2 of them.
When do you guys think you'll be moving into the new place then?
So last I heard, we're about a month and a half, 2 months out from moving into the new shop, which is going to be kind of right on the very south east end of Watertown, kind of out in the industrial park there. So it was kind of nice timing when all this happened. So hopefully we can get through the next month or 2 and make a smooth transition into our new shop and kind of pick things up right there as well.
Well, there you go. When you open up, you can give us a tour of the new place when you guys get the new place open up. So when it comes to, wheelhouses or trailers, what sets you guys apart from some of the other companies that are out there?
So we have a couple things we like to think that set ourselves apart from the competition. First and foremost, we are still a traditional steel framed trailer. So obviously we're a little bit heavier than some of our other competitors out there, but we are trying to go for that durability. And, you're going to buy one wheelhouse, one toy hauler for your life. And unless you're a growing family, like you've got one that's going to last you 20, 30 years. The other thing that we do is we also do spray foam insulation in the inside of our trailers. So typical batten insulation. And then we run a header lengthwise of the trailer on both sides from the back to the front. And the combination of that with the spray foam and everything getting sealed up, it just makes it a really rigid and durable trailer. And then the last thing is, you probably see by cruising on our website in that picture right there, we also build all of our wheelhouses and they're all toy haulers by standard. So we can make them where they're camp models, what we call them, where we don't have the ramp door, but we try to build around the ability that you don't need to bring multiple trailers, whether you're going camping or hunting, or you're going out to the ice. You can fit a side-by-side or a four-wheeler in there, get to the boat ramp, hook it up to your four-wheeler, hook it up to your side-by-side, and drag that out on the ice. And now you're not having to drag your half-ton pickup or your three-quarter-ton pickup out there to get these wheelhouses out on an ice fishing spot.
And I noticed in that video, looked like a new model that you guys are working on, maybe a little bit smaller for guys this year.
It's about a week out from officially being complete, and it's called our Outlander. So it's going to be a 6.5 by 10 foot. Going to sleep 3 people comfortably. It's going to have a cassette style toilet in it, a mini fridge, a cooktop. So it's going to be one of those, our junior right now is our 6.5 by 14, and that weighs about 2,800 pounds. So don't know quite where this one's going to land, but it's going to be obviously less weight than that. And So it's going to be one of those you can get on the early ice and pull around with a four-wheeler, no problem.
Did you say cassette toilet?
Yeah, it's
what is that?
One of those. It's a unique toilet. So basically, you can flush it, and it has a little holding tank that has a cartridge in it that you replace. So it's not a full water tank that you got like a black and gray water, but it's got a small little cartridge that you can replace after a weekend. So you're not just going to have to dump a bucket out on the ice or anything like that.
So is that where the name comes from? It's like a little cassette tape cartridge?
Yep. You got it.
Interesting. All right. Does it play any music while you're going to the bathroom?
Oh, man. Wouldn't that be nice?
Do we have to explain what a cassette is to half of our listeners?
Probably. We might have to. Oh, man. I mean, I've definitely heard some weird noises coming out of the bath. I know there's one buddy of ours that would definitely want some music playing when he's using the bathroom.
You?
Well, no, that would just be for your benefit.
Yeah.
Mostly. But one guy's, would you say he's
Shy?
Shy?
Well,
Yeah.
only on a boat.
Well, he's shy in a boat, but do you remember that one time when we were camping? We were.
This took a weird turn.
Yeah.
We'll tell the story real quick, and then we got to take a break. But what were we, snow goose hunting? Snow goose hunting in North Dakota, and we stayed at this cabin that the bathroom was like, it was like a 3/4 wall, basically.
It was a full wall, but it had a vaulted ceiling, and it wasn't sealed up on top of the wall.
Yeah, so there was a big gap between the ceiling and the top of the wall that went from the bathroom to the rest of the cabin. Nice cabin otherwise, but
And the ceiling was old barn tin, so everything just echoed. Through the whole cabin. And it was a small cabin.
And whatever, we're all friends. It's like, there's whatever, use the bathroom. But one guy particularly, we won't call him out at this point, but he did not like using that bathroom at all.
You guys go outside.
Yeah. So so then that makes us try to talk to him while he's in there going to the bathroom, and he can hear, and he just wouldn't respond to any questions. Nope. Would not. It just like ignored us. We're like, dude, you're sitting 8 feet away from us with the gap in the wall. Obviously, you can hear us talking right now, but just not wanted nothing to do with it. All right. That did take a weird turn. We're going to get this ship back on course with Tanner. Maybe. Tanner Cherney. More with Tanner when we come back. Ice fishing season is here. This winter, plan a trip to Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Not only will you have the chance to catch their legendary perch, but this year, Haybale Heights has been catching big walleye after big walleye. And they're doing it from a mobile, comfortable snow bear. No matter how cold it is outside, you're warm and toasty on the inside. Learn more and book a trip today at haybaleheights.com. That's haybaleheights.com. We're back. This is Sporting Journal Radio. Thanks for tuning in on the radio network by demand at sportingjournalradio.com. Download the podcast wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or you can watch this, of course, on YouTube. And even if you're listening to this, we'll go back and watch it on YouTube. You can get a little tour of some of those fish houses, or the trailers, the trailers from Team Lodge. Tanner Cherney is our guest right now, marketing specialist over there. Tanner, you were up at Devil's Lake recently. I saw Pat Calmerton and a bunch of other people were up there with you guys having a good time up there. Did you haul one of the houses up, or did you guys just go out and some of the snow bears and some of the other things that the resorts up there have?
We had full intentions of hauling a house up there, and we kind of played it by ear there because, like you said, it's been a weird year with ice conditions and trying to make sure that we've got enough solid ice to get one out there. And we were fortunate enough. I think by the time we went up there, it was about 10.5, 11 inches. So we did pull our junior up there, and I had that behind my 1000 Ranger side by side, and slow and steady, and we got it out on a pretty decent walleye spot. So yeah, it was exciting to get that out there, and we had a fun trip up to Devil's Lake. I tell you what, after this summer with the walleye fishing, and then last year with everyone having a great year with perch fishing through the ice, I think we're in store for another one of those years. And the 2-3 days we were fishing up there was just another way to show that it's going to be another good year.
Yeah. And when were you guys up there? Was that last week?
So yeah, it was the weekend after New Year's. We were up there for a Thursday through a Sunday, and we didn't move a whole heck of a lot just because it was still kind of at that point where there wasn't a lot of safe ice, and we were running around with a couple Rangers, and we just wanted to make sure we were on the safe side. And we fished out of Creel Bay and hopped around and actually got on a really good school of perch for both those days. They were a little bit finickier, but a little patience is a virtue, and we were able to put in some of those Devil's Lake jumbos in a couple baskets.
I'd imagine there's been quite a bit of ice building since then, too, with all the cold weather that we've had. And now the weather's going to get nice. It's great that we had some real cold weather to build some ice, and now it's going to be a little bit nicer to go out there when temps are a little bit warmer in the 30s or something like that. How were you finding those? Did you have to be mobile, or were you able to get on perch pretty easily?
That one, we were actually able to get them on pretty easily. Obviously, the traditional way to tackle in Devil's Lake is you're going to be mobile. And I know we drilled there was about 7 of us out there, and we probably drilled 50 holes and kind of bounced around and, fish a hole for 5-10 minutes, mark a fish. All right, they're there. If you didn't mark a fish, move on to the next. And we were pretty fortunate. Obviously, there was, the change of electronics with a little bit of the forward-facing sonar. You can, alleviate drilling a few of those holes and actually do some scouting that way. And once we found the fish, it was a matter of just being patient because they were super negative that day or the 2 days we were there with the fog and the precip that was coming through, and you'd mark fish all day long, and then all of a sudden you'd get a 5 to 10 minute window where you might get 2 or 3 active ones, and you try to, get those as quick as you could, and then again waiting. But yeah, we were very fortunate that we were able to only have to move a few times and not do the traditional run all over Sam Hill and try to catch them.
Which is nice, yeah. And, I'm not surprised you caught a bunch of fish in Devil's Lake. It's a great fishery, of course. But on a trip like that, even if you didn't catch fish, having Pat Calmerton along, you're going to have a fun trip, I think, no matter what, right?
You are. It's kind of funny because, we were fishing outside most of the time. And, of course, anyone that knows Pat is a very loud talker, and he's having fun fish and getting excited, and before you know it, there was probably 5 or 6 people fishing around us a couple hundred yards, and every time he'd get excited, you just watch these people inch closer and closer to us, and finally by the end of the trip they were fishing next to us and friends of ours, and it's just like, how can you not go see what that guy's up to, the way he talks and is just so he's into everything, and it doesn't matter if it's a white bass that's coming through the ice or a jumbo perch. He just gets as excited about everything that's coming through there.
He's like the equivalent of pulling your net out in a boat on a busy lake. Like people are going to take notice. Like, oh, what's going on over there? Move over a little bit closer. No, he does. And I think you're seeing that from a lot of anglers now. I mean, obviously, you go to Devil's Lake for the perch or the walleyes, but there's big pike, of course, and then the white bass up there now has gotten to be a popular fish to target. And that one that I'm sure he caught multiples, but I think I saw one on Instagram or Facebook or something that he pulled out of the hole. That was a nice fish.
I mean, it was unreal. Some of those, we have 8-inch holes drilled, and you almost couldn't get the white bass through there, just like a little pie plate coming through the ice. And yeah, we were joking half the time, like, we should go weigh one of these because they seem like they could be pushing 3.5-4 pounds, and just it was unreal. And they're fun to catch in the open water, but you put on a little ultralight ice rod and 6-pound test line, and you hook into one of those. It's a fun fight.
Yeah, I don't care what you're fishing for, a 3 to 4 pound fish on an ultralight. That's going to be a battle. That's going to be fun. Did you guys keep some and cook some up?
We in hindsight, we should have, because we had a crew up that was fishing, kind of doing the whole culinary aspect, because they made perch wontons and walleye tacos on the ice for us. And that was kind of the whole premise of this. And it was really good. And of course, we probably had caught a dozen or so the first day. And then the second day, we ended up catching probably another 4 or 5. And they were like, we should keep some of those. We've got a good recipe for them. And of course, by the time we realized we should have kept them, we already had thrown everything back, and then we couldn't catch them. But hey, I would have been really curious to try their recipe, and I forget what it was she was going to be making with them. But because I've always been curious on what's a good way to eat one of those, and everyone talks about smoking them and different things. So I think it would have been delicious.
We eat them just like
fry them up.
Yeah, just like crappies, pretty much. We'll eat them.
Cut that red line out, and then I treat them like a crappie. I think they're very similar to crappie meat. Once that red line is out, and they're delicious and a great bonus fish for the frying pan. You can save a walleye's life by keeping a white bass.
That's right.
Or
that's true.
If you got a bunch of people in a fish fry and you don't catch that many walleyes and the white bass are biting, you can just tell everybody it's walleye. You'd fry it all up, and it all tastes the same. Nobody else can pick it out.
We've definitely done that. Chaz and I did that to you guys this year in South Dakota. Let's throw some of these white bass in here and throw some walleyes back, and nobody knew. We had nobody knew.
Yep.
You can't tell. I know when we filmed that episode with Dell on the river, we caught, I think it was catfish and white bass that it was sheephead. That's what it was. We were catching drum. And we did the same thing with those. And what we did is you just didn't cut all the way down to the skin. When you took the skin off, you left just a little layer of meat on there, and then took that lateral line out, or that mud line out of there, and fried them up. And it was, oh gosh, especially if you're using the same coating that you are on a walleye that you would on these other fish too. They're all pretty mild white meat.
White flaky fish.
Yeah, they're all going to taste the same. So the whole rough fish issue is so much more of a societal and a mental mindset. Yeah, that it's a rough fish. It must not taste very good. You talk about any of those fish, though, they put up a pretty good fight too. So they're fun to catch and they can be fun to eat. It's just a little different cleaning, maybe.
Sometimes,
yeah. Maybe.
Well, everyone should go fish rough fish. Leave the walleye.
That's right. That's right. No, that's pretty cool. Have you ever done much pike fishing up there in Devil's Lake, Tanner?
I've done a lot of it in the springtime. I haven't targeted them a lot, hip ups and in the shallow. I know last year there was a few good ones caught, and then it seemed like forever why people could not find any pike in the lake. And now in this last right before freeze up, people were starting to find them again. And yeah, it used to be a trophy pike fishery, 40 plus inch pike up there. And I know there's still quite a few left. They're just a little bit harder to target with that body of water being over 160,000 acres right now.
Jeez. That's where we're at. Okay. It's such an interesting body of water, and just the history behind it and how it's expanded, and then they, put the outlet in and this and that, and you're fishing underwater barns and
stop signs.
And I'll never forget going out with hay bale that year, and they had the old, like an old satellite imagery overlaid with their electronics GPS map. So you could see where the old groves were, where the old, roads and bridges. You could see all the things that were underwater that you might not see on on your electronics GPS. It just blew me. Oh yeah, there's some trees over here. All I see is water. And he's like, well, they used to be here. They're down on the bottom. They're underwater now. And you'd look at the map and you'd see a grove of trees on the map that were no longer there. So,
well, what's my favorite way to find a good walleye spot in the Dakotas? Look for road closed signs.
Yeah,
sure. You get in between two of them, you're going to catch walleyes. Guarantee it.
Look for the road beds. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. You weren't supposed to. That's a secret, Dan.
That's not a secret.
Let's talk about
There's
that.
There's no fish in the Dakotas. What am I talking about?
That's right. Oh man, well, we're planning on getting back up there to Devil's Lake this winter. Go out with Lucas there at hay bale and getting the snow bears and rip around. It's been a few years since we've been up there, so I'm pretty excited about it. Tanner, what when it comes to say lures, jigs, whatever, if we're gonna go target perch, what should I be packing for that trip?
So for perch, definitely you're gonna want tungsten jigs in your tackle box, like a rattling blade spoon of any sorts, 1/4 ounce, a little bit smaller would be ideal. And we usually start with that, and minnow heads and spikes, depending on the day, can kind of go back and forth which one's working better. But I usually like to start with a small little rattling spoon, and just work those fish, try to find them. And as soon as you get activity, if they're not committing, that's when we start downsizing to tungsten jigs and, putting a full minnow on there. And usually, it varies, but this year, for whatever reason, we've been hooking a lot of them by the tail, and it seems to be the best action for them. And then if they're not committing on that, then downsizing smaller and loading up spikes on that tungsten jig. But those are the 1-2 punch for perch fishing on Devil's Lake. Small little rattling blade spoons and some sort of tungsten small jigs are going to catch you perch up there once you get on them.
Well, Mika turned 13 this week, and one of my favorite pictures of her is when she was, I don't know how old she was, a year or two maybe, and we were on Devil's Lake, and I got her holding an ice rod in her mouth, and trying to get her to jig it. There was actually line in the water. That part didn't quite work out, but I got her to hold the rod anyway.
Do you get an extra line with that?
That's a good question. Buy her a license? Yeah. Is there a dog license in North Dakota? All right, Tanner, if people want to learn more about Devil's Lake, or if they want to learn more about Team Lodge in Central USA, where should they go to learn more about these two places and companies?
Absolutely. So for Devil's Lake, our website's devilslakend as in northdakota.com, and that's going to have all of our fishing reports, social links, all that right on there. And then as far as Team Lodge, if you're looking for wheelhouses or toy haulers, our website's going to be team-lodge.com. And again, that'll have our social links and YouTube channels and everything right on there. So those are our two websites where you can find all that information to help you make those decisions, whether you're looking for a fishing trip or looking for a new ice house.
Or a camp, or something to camp in. There you go.
Absolutely.
I'll help you out. All right, Tanner Cherney, thanks for the time this week on the show, man.
Thank you, guys.
Sporting Journal Radio is a division of Macaba LLC. If you've got a question, comment, or story idea for us, send us an email. Go to sportingjournalradio.com. While you're there, you can learn how to advertise on the show and visit our store for hats, hoodies, coffee mugs, and more. Go to sportingjournalradio.com.